Hi guys, it's your boy Meritum. So, Persona 5 Strikers is now out for everybody, so I felt like I can finally post my review. There won't be any story related spoilers besides saying that it's pretty fucking good, so any fan of the Persona series won't be disappointed. I'll also briefly mention one of the new added characters, but it all happens in the very beginning of the game, so it's hardly a spoiler. All of the footage here will be from a Switch version of the game, and I'll just say, you know this symbol? Yeah, this cool looking symbol. Now get used to it, because you'll be seeing it a lot. The loading times are a bit much, but hell, at this point I'll take any SMT game on the Switch, so thanks. The story picks up after the events of Vanilla P5, and that's important to mention, because that Kasumi girl, she's gone. She never existed. No one cares.
How you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
You happen to reunite on the day that weird shit begins to happen again, and it's up to Phantom Thieves to save the day again. Alas, the game is a Musou game, which basically means to anyone not familiar with it, it's an open world hack and slash game that takes you mindlessly battling hordes of enemies, which in this instance are demons. It's generally just a mindless fun experience. Persona 5 Strikers, however, does things perfectly to preserve the identity of the game and the overall feel of Persona that we all love. We got ambushes that gain you advantage against the horde of demons you spawn. We get the switching between the metaverse and the real world. Persona fusions in the Velvet Room. We get quite believable villains, and there's the case of the new humanity companion you meet at the beginning of the game. You get a new android waifu fresh out of the box, and I mean literally. Her name is Sophia, and she's basically a red-headed girl that you find in the metaverse that got thrown away into the garbage. When she awakens, she has amnesia and decides to join you. Outside the metaverse though, she basically lives in your phone and acts not only as a playable character, but also as your new source of buying and selling items, calling Sophia's shop. She gives me Aegis vibe from Persona 3, but if she was a... I'm glad that they added her, because honestly, anything that brings me Persona 3 nostalgia is a good thing. Please Atlas, make a P3 remaster, thank you. You know who isn't a baby though? People who subscribe to my channel. So if you aren't a baby and want to see more of SMT and Persona content, hit that like and subscribe button. Now that shilling is out of the way, back to the actual game itself. Instead of Persona 5 battle transitions to a screen that you can choose your items and what to do, you're basically thrown into action. It's all really fast paced and honestly takes a lot of getting used to from the previous format. You can also, quote unquote, pause the game and select the skill that you want to throw at the enemies or buff your party. Every time you hit an enemy, you charge your showtime meter, which basically is a heavier version of an attack that either helps with bosses or clears a wave of enemies. You can switch between any of the characters that you have in your party at the given time. How does progression work in this? You get the regular Persona leveling up and getting different skills, but on top of that, the more you use your character, the more you unlock different combo chains or abilities you can get. The fact that they use a button pass animation is a nice flavor. You acquire personas for fusion not by negotiating, but by having either a random drop from a horde of demons or by having a guaranteed drop. There's also a new system added called Bond, which is basically a perk system that you can unlock to customize your playthrough. You unlock more of them as you progress through the story. I find this very refreshing since the last action game was like Raido game, and those are very inaccessible if anyone wants to get more into the whole Megaton universe. How is it different from the regular Persona experience? Well, besides the obvious action versus turn-based combat in Persona 5, if you left the dungeon without finishing it in one go, you basically wasted a day. In Strikers, however, you don't have any downsides to quitting. You can go back to Sojira's house and re-enter the dungeon fully healed with max SP and HP and go back to the action. And you don't have to listen to Morgana constantly telling you to go back to bed. The social link aspect has been changed to bonds. You can get requests from your pals, which are basically side missions, but it's not as satisfying as going for a full-on social link. I never assumed I'm going to miss social links that much, but by that point they've become such an integral part of the franchise that it feels really weird to see those characters and not be able to choose who you spend your time with. On one hand, it's understandable because it's a sequel that assumes you played the first entry in the series. On the other hand, I would love to see a more in-depth take on the social-like aspect of the game, but I guess I gotta wait for another Persona mainline game. You get your difficulty levels that don't impact the story too, and when you get humiliated by a mini-boss too many times you can switch to easy and the game is a breezy. The whole game won't take you nearly enough as Persona 5 because it takes about 30 hours to complete and I've been lazy about it myself compared to God knows how many hours of Persona 5 or even Persona 5 Royal. Besides that, and that brings me to the point of the video, it really feels like a fleshed out experience geared towards people who have been feeling a big ass void after knowing that Persona 5 is over. It just hits you with a nostalgia that shouldn't even be nostalgic, because it has been not too long ago since the OG has been released. It does exactly what a sequel should do. It expands on the story, has the characters remain the same, and not like some other dumb attempts at prolonging the story that change the characters completely. Yes, the answer, I'm talking to you. While being a totally differently structured game and making a vast amount of differences, it keeps the spirit and the flavor of the original. It's not just a simple fanservice to all of you waifu boys, it has a place in the universe and it doesn't feel cash grabby that veers on your good memories with the original experience. And I'll give credit where credit is due. I love the fact that it's finally available on other platforms than PlayStation. I played Strikers on PC, PlayStation 5 and Switch. While there isn't any noticeable differences between the first two, the Switch version is alright. It's obviously a worse graphically looking game, and the waiting times really took take your time to heart. The ability of having it on the go for me is the defining factor why I stuck with this version though. I don't like some things about the game though, which after praising it for the whole video so far, I think I can get away with. One is the fact that the digital edition was strictly better. After paying $10 more, you basically got DLCs that help you in the game and an artbook and music. On top of that, you got the most important part. Early access to the game before anyone else, especially people paying for the physical release. I'm bad with money and patience and I'll buy anything with Atlas in the name. If they came out with easy to buy Atlas socks for $5.99, my money's gone. The sole premise that a digital version you can't sell off later or when you're bored of it or want to keep it as a collectible is strictly better is a practice I can't really get behind with. The second thing is that if you've never played either vanilla or royal version of the game, you probably should play the first game or I don't know, what a playthrough. The game doesn't give you any time to go over the previous game and already assumes you know the characters pretty well, so it throws you head down into it. Do you need it to enjoy the combat or story elements? I think it's vital. The story feels so much cleaner and smoother if you know even the basic overview of the story and characters in it, which brings me to the last aspect of the downsides. This isn't even a critique of the game, but more towards the Atlas itself. Sure, it's nice to have a Persona on something more than a PlayStation, but from 3 platforms available, the original was released on only one and it's pretty much necessary to grasp the basic premise, not to be confused for the whole game. Would it be so hard to follow with Persona 4 Golden Steam release and do a Persona 5 Steam release? Or Persona 5 Switch port that literally everyone has been screaming about since the beginning? It would not only be a great cash boost with how well P4 sold on Steam and how successful Switch is as a console, I just don't get why Atlus hates money. So, as my final thoughts, I just gotta say that my whole Strikers experience was a roller coaster ride. First, they teased us with a P5S slogan, so I was hoping for, hey, maybe it's Persona 5 on Switch that we all want. But then I doubted myself and thought they will probably announce like Persona 5 Speed spin-off something. Then what we got was an announcement for a Musou game, and my personal preference towards them is politely that they can just stop being a thing. I'm more of an RPG dude, I like turn-based boring ass combat. So the roller coaster ride suddenly got real bad. Then I saw the footage of the game in Japan and slowly it began to grow on me. And then, after a whole year of waiting, we finally got it. As someone who doesn't even like Musou games, I was coming into this game with hopeful but low expectations. But I got happily surprised, and now it turned out to being, so far, as one of the games I won't regret spending money on. For people who aren't a diehard fans of Mega 10 or Musou games and just liked P5 for what it was, with the visual novel, dating sim and turn-based combat elements, I would advise to wait for a sale. I don't feel like it will be fully worth $60 or $70 price tag if you aren't heavily invested into the series. Yes, it has a form of replay value with a New Game Plus, but for me there just isn't enough content. It's a goddamn good game though. That said, I'm curious what your experience with the game is. Be sure to let me know in the comments down below and subscribe if you want to see more SMT and Persona type of content. For now though, peace out!